broadcasting from an undisclosed location, from a secret hunting spot known only to him, and the guy who told him about it, and possibly the guy who told him. It's a show all about hunting in New Zealand and around the globe. This is The Hunting Show. Find The Hunting Show on Facebook and Twitter for up-to-date information on upcoming shows and topics.
Welcome to another week of The Hunting Show. I'm your host, Stephen Spargo, and we've decided, along with NZ Outdoor Hunting Magazine, to reward those of you that are active with us. There's a 12-month subscription of NZO Outdoor Hunting Magazine to be won every month for the next 6 months at least, and along with that, you get your photo on the top of our page for being the fan of the month. Yes, it could be you. All you need to do is like us on Facebook. That's www.facebook.com/The Hunting Show. And yes, you could be the fan of the month by just being active. All you need to do is share the page, interact with the page, comment on stuff, and help us in general. And it could be your face up there winning that great prize from NZ Outdoor Magazine. Hunting in the media is always an interesting topic. And I think no matter what we do as hunters, we have to be aware that if we do something wrong or we do something that's not entirely ethical, it's going to end up there. And it's going to be sensationalised. The headlines are never going to be favourable if we get into trouble. And when we're doing good stuff, when hunters as a collective or groups of hunters around the country do something positive, we're lucky if it makes it into the media at all. So what I wanted to just push out before we hit into this interview is that, yes, headlines are great, and the media is a great way of getting your message across and making people aware of what is going on. Sometimes the headline-grabbing stuff isn't necessarily what's in the article. And this next interview, I believe, and I'm about to find out, is a really good case of that. That what was pushed out there in the media and what the truth really was were two quite different things. And it wasn't that the media lied, it was that they picked up on one small part of that story. And another interesting story that's got into the media very recently is the case of hunter access into the Te Uruwera Rangers. So joined by phone, I have Tamati Kruger, the chairman of the Te Uruwera Trust. How are you, Tamati?
Oh, very good, yes.
Now, first of all, what makes the Uruwera Rangers so special to Tūhoe?
Well, it's their homeland, and that's what it was before it became a national park in 1957 or so. So it's their place of origin. It's where they still live, and probably it's the only place where the ex-national park was peppered with privately owned Tūhoe land.
Right. Now, just for there's a lot of listeners that have heard about this story, but possibly don't quite know what the Te Uruwera Act is and how it came about. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
The Uruwera Act is the result of a long, drawn-out treaty settlement between the Crown and Tūhoe. I think first and foremost it must be understood that it was part of the treaty settlement with Tūhoe people. Tūhoe had indicated to the Crown that it was highly likely that it could not settle with the Crown if Te Uruwera was not part of those deliberations in that settlement. So first of all, the Uruwera Act is that. It's a result of a treaty settlement.
So from a hunter's point of view, first of all, there's guys out there that had permits, they've been hunting in their whole lives, and now those permits have been suspended. Why were they suspended?
Well, they're not suspended, first of all. The Te Uruwera Board have in front of them some urgent matters to review, and one of them was to look at the whole use of Te Uruwera, or what we are now referring to as the permitting issue. In order to help the Te Uruwera Board come to some conclusions around the framework, it made a statement that no new permits will be issued, but those that have permits those permits continue to be valid and can be used by the permit holders. And the Uruwera Board asked for permit holders to use their discretion, and in the spirit of collaboration with the board, they were asked not to use their permits for the remainder of the year to allow the board to do its job in review and come up with a framework by the end of the year. So there was no suspension of those permits. There was no banishment of hunters. There was no halting of hunting for an indefinite period. There was no eviction of people at all. And there is no underlying conspiracy to propagate a tax or a fee on hunters.
Tamati, isn't this just one of those cases of the media used headlines that grabbed hunters' attention, or they grabbed the nation's attention to a certain extent, and you guys have kind of got a bad rap out of it? That's my impression of the whole thing.
Yeah, I kind of get that feeling as well, Stephen, that may be the case. And, it becomes pretty difficult for the Te Uruwera Board to respond to a lot of anonymous accusations. So it's best not to get into that, I think. But can I say, Stephen, that many hunters rung the board up directly, that is the head office of the board at Tāne-Atua, and made very frank but sincere inquiries as to what was happening. And for many of those people that made inquiries, they then quickly understood what was happening and said that they supported that and they would reciprocate by not utilizing their permit. They understood that what was being sought was efficiencies and effectiveness in health and safety for people that came to Te Uruwera. And also the background was to think about what would be good for the ecosystem, for the environment. And some of them did have, I think, had heard that this was some kind of racist policy being introduced by Tūhoe people to erode the access of the general public. I mean, these things take fire very quickly. I think once you open yourself to be educated down at the public bar, the local, you tend to take things a lot more seriously. But for the most part, many people rung up and inquired, got the right story, and walked away quite happy.
So Tamati, now I'm a European hunter, and I've hunted in the Te Uruwera Rangers. Not a lot. It's not my backyard, but I think that from a lot of my associates or people that I've talked to about this issue, that's very much their fear. You've addressed it incredibly well. That as fellow hunters, and as you know, there's hunters from all nationalities, all backgrounds, and all races. That land means probably something different, but as much to them. So what you're saying here is that it's never going to be an access issue. Is that clear?
The legislation of Te Uruwera clearly spells out that the access to Te Uruwera by visitors is something that is welcomed and that is protected by legislation. Can I quickly add that was argued for by Tūhoe?
Fantastic.
It was not a condition that was put forward by the Crown in our negotiations. It was something that Tūhoe put forward, championed. So it's kind of contradictory, isn't it? That many hunters believe that may have been something forced on Tūhoe, and Tūhoe is now trying to get away from it. Not so.
Now, I've been, you can imagine as a hunter and as someone that gets fired emails from almost everyone in the country when something happens, one thing that I've actually responded with, and this is only my thoughts on the process, but I said that what if these rangers, or the Te Uruwera Rangers, actually become a hunting mecca where security's better, there's maybe a balloting system so that the animal numbers are healthier and better condition, that access is easier. Could it be that actually that the Te Uruwera Trust actually do a spectacular job, or are you hoping they do a spectacular job, and this becomes, or this sets the standard for how areas like this are run and governed?
That is one of the things that we want to do, and we have made a pledge that we would work with the Game Animal Council,
fantastic,
with the New Zealand Deer Stalkers Association, with the New Zealand Pig Hunters Association, with various local hunting clubs that you'll find at places like Opotiki, Whakatane, Ruatahuna, Waikare Moana, Waimana, etc., Rotorua. And when we were engaged in our negotiations with the Crown, on our own bat and at our own cost, we visited something like around about 12 to 15 organizations that had affiliation or business with Te Uruwera. So, from organizations that were conservationists to organizations that were commercial operators, boaters, trout fishermen, guides, people like that were looking after areas of ecosystems. We met with them many times to give them assurance that we respected and acknowledged their expertise, and that we acknowledged that as well as Tūhoe, many people globally loved Te Uruwera and had a record of contribution and wished to be part of a team and a group that would be there to protect its integrity. So we continue to do that. And so with this permitting issue, we have met with those key organizations that have an interest in hunting. We are working together to come up with a system of use and I think of privilege for people to be there, to come up with a better system.
Can I ask a very frank question, Tamati? Why hasn't this story, and the story you've just told me, really got out there? Because what you've just said to me is fabulous. It doesn't seem like the media has been interested in picking up that side of the story.
Well, I think it's because it's not sexy enough, isn't it?
You're probably right.
Don't you think? I mean, does logical, plain language, no violence based news, is that sexy in New Zealand? No, it is not. We wanted to. We were attracted by a ruckus, by a fight, by discord. And it makes really good news, and then we add to it. Look, we have tried our best, Stephen. We made our statements. You will find our conclusions on the website of the Game Animal Council, on DOC, on our own website of the Tūhoe tribe website, etc. And I would hope that some people have taken notice of that and accepted that. But unfortunately and regretfully, some people don't like that storyline.
Well,
so when you and I read letters to the editor in the Wairua Star, And in the Waikato Times, there are people that want to have a fight. And I believe their attitude, Stephen, is that they've always thought of Te Uruwera as a national park, their national park. They see themselves having an entitlement and a right that has now been disturbed and interrupted by some Māori tribe. And they are angry.
Yeah. Can you understand their feeling?
No, I don't wish to understand it because it's wrong.
But I suppose where I was getting with that is I think that maybe they feel that way because of incorrect information.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is I cannot be held responsible for that.
Very good point. No,
Yes.
you're quite right. Now, when are permits going to be available? If I wanted to apply for a permit because I want to go to my hunting spot that I've hunted in my whole life, when am I going to be able to do that, and how?
Well, if you hold a permit right now, Stephen, you can use it.
Right.
And you may ask yourself, will Tamati then arrest me? And
I'm sure Tamati won't arrest me.
and take me to court. Then you'll recall that my statement was I was asking you, not commanding, and not threatening you or coercing you. I asked you if you would hold off. So if you decide not to hold off, but to use your permit, you can do so legally and validly. It may cause me some disappointment,
right?
That you feel that your personal benefit trumps that of Te Uruwera.
Right.
So that I would probably be a little bit sad about that. For those people that do not have a permit at all, we're asking them to wait out the rest of this year, and those permits should be, or whatever we're going to call them, will be available in the new year.
Right.
And I'm hoping that by the end of this year, Stephen, that the board will be able, along with, after consultation with other groups, be able to announce a framework of how we're going to approach this. It will not be a 100% super-duper tested-out system, but I think it will be a framework that shows the mechanics of what we're trying to do, and then we will fine-tune it over maybe a number of months or years as we follow through for it. Because we no longer are operating under DOC and under a national park, look, the whole verse of language changes. For example, there may be activities, Stephen, that do not require a permit.
Yeah.
There may be activities that are currently called permits, but they better fit into another category, maybe like concessions, where because it's a livelihood matter, that it doesn't really fit the permitting thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we're looking at generally use, not just permit, but use. And then we have to be clear, what then is the relationship between Tūhoe people whose homeland Te Uruwera is and everyone else? What is that going to be? Or shall we just skirt around that and hope nobody notices? But we have to confront these issues and come up with something that will work with everyone. At the moment, Stephen, what is called a recreational hunting permit is no more than a gun license check. That's what it is. Yeah.
Now, this is actually a personal concern of mine, and often with these sorts of situations, everything you've said has been great, and it fits very much in line with what I hoped you would say. But is there any fear from your end of splinter groups within your own organisation causing grief for hunters, even when this permit system has come through and everything is running smoothly? Or is this a unified force? Is everyone on the same page and this is going to work fantastically?
At the moment, the Tūhoe people are showing unification on this issue, and the unification is at first of all their desire to review the concession, the possum contracting, and the hunting permit issue. Of course, once we do some good work here, we then continue down the line, won't we, and look at other things, reviewing other things. There's probably a long list of these things that need to be reviewed and looked at. So we want to do them in a fairly orderly fashion, but on the principle of consultation, consensus agreement. And so there is a buy-in. There's a buy-in from people that it's not just the board dictating some rules and regulations, but through consultation, then people have a real input and benefit to see those decisions being successful.
Tamati, do you think that in the future there could be a ballot system or a limit on the amount of numbers, particularly in deer, that could be taken? How do you see that going?
Part of our disadvantage, I think, Stephen, is that we know very little about what is in there in terms of numbers. We know some things, but not a hell of a lot. And I think if we came up with a system, for example, where I came to you to ask for a hunting permit, you said to me, hey, look, our information tells us that it would not be a good idea for you to go to that hot spot of yours at Waikaremoana because our register says that there's around about 43 other hunters there at the moment. And that we recommend you go over here because we have information that there's only 2 other hunters there and there's a lot of deer going through that patch. And while you're there, could you take up these 20 stoat traps?
Fantastic, yes.
And sit them along this ridge here if you happen to be there. And look, here's an app that we can download on your phone. That will enable you to have a GPS reading which tells you when you may have inadvertently slipped into private land. And if you could help us out by noting, something about the flora, fauna, tracks, huts, etc., that would be a really great help. So then I am not just coming to Te Uruwera on my spring hunt, taking what I need and contributing nothing, but there is then a relationship of reciprocity here. So we do need more information. We do need to utilize a lot more technology, Stephen, where we are using the latest that's available to help track what we're doing, to help in notifying the board what is going on as of the day, and also to work with people, for example, on the very rare rusa deer, for example, that you don't find anywhere else. So that could be a great project between Tūhoe and the Game Animal Council, where we look at a breeding program and maybe a ballot system of some type. And we work together with other people around pest control and better facilities, safer tracks, and a system where we know where the current 1,600 recreational hunters that have got a permit, where they are. At the moment, we have no idea.
And, well, some of them don't either, potentially.
Yeah, that's right.
So what you're saying is, first of all, recreational hunters particularly shouldn't be... Well, there's no reason for recreational hunters to be worried about access. That's the core of what you're saying. And actually, you're hoping to engage them and get them involved with the care and use of the area.
Yes. We think that maybe that has never been offered, that type of relationship. And hence the growth of the view of it's my right and my entitlement, and I should not have to run through hoops or do anything for anybody else. So it is saying to recreational hunters, great to have you here. Can you help us out and work with us to make this place safer and better for people that we can share, that you can share with people who just want to come and take photos and hike and tramp or fish. So if we're sharing this area and with people who live here, that we all understand who we are, where we are, then we grow a culture of respect for each other. Then we may end up with a very, very world-class ecosystem and recreational area that will be replicated around the world, not only in New Zealand.
And I understand, are you a hunter as well, Tamati?
Well, I've got to say, I do want to lie to you right now and say yes. But I have to say that the last time I did that was a number of years ago. My father is from Uruwera and my mother is from Ruatoki. But I spent a number of years in Uruwera. I have a son that was born out there at Ohaua, out in the middle of Te Urewera. I was the doctor in that event, and so my association with Te Urewera is long, and it continues.
Because I think what I was going to get to there is that the great thing about the hunting fraternity is that it does cross race, sex, income divides very, very well. And you'll know as well as I do that you can meet anyone in the middle of the back of the Whirinaki forest all the way to the Te Ureweras themselves, and you've got something to chat about and you've got common ground. And isn't that a fantastic thing? It's
fantastic, all right. And the friendships continue long after these people can't walk and hunt anymore. But that doesn't stop the stories from growing, I believe, Stephen. They just, that sometimes those little deer are the size of elephants by the end of the conversation.
Yeah, that's right. They're always bigger 30 years ago, eh?
Yeah, that's right. No, I have seen for myself that those relationships are very, very close, and they continue on. And you're quite right. It transcends sometimes a lot of problematic areas.
Yes.
And once I think people see it as a privilege, then they tend to behave in such a way that they want to preserve that forever, for all generations. Yes.
Well, Tamati, it's been fantastic talking to you. And next time I'm in the area, before I go for a hunt, sometime next year, I might even buy you a coffee, because you sound like a very interesting man.
Well, I'll make sure that I Google some pictures of random deer and pigs, and then impress you with them with fictional stories.
It sounds fantastic, Tamati. Thank you very, very much for your time, and I have posted some links to the various things we've talked about on the comment section of this podcast. And how about you and I have another chat like this when the permit system is in place, and we can talk to people how they go about that, or whatever that system might be called, how they go about it, where they find it, and what it's going to look like when you guys understand that a little bit better.
That sounds good.
Thanks, Tamati.
Okay, thank you, Stephen.
We'd like your feedback on that interview and the contents therein. All you need to do is go to www.facebook.com/The Hunting Show and put your feedback on there, or email me info@thehuntingshow.co.nz. And of course, our website is easy enough to find as well. And we do want to hear what you think about that interview. Personally, what a nice guy, what a great guy Tamati was, and I feel a whole lot better having got that interview in the can and been able to put the correct information out there too. Hunters in New Zealand and around the world for that matter. By the way, the listenership around the world keeps on growing. Isn't it interesting? The New Zealand listenership has kind of almost plateaued out, but Australia, America and Britain, you guys are certainly cranking. And I actually met a man whose son in Australia let him know about the show, and he lives over here. Be careful out there. Good hunting.
Broadcasting from an undisclosed location, from a secret hunting spot known only to him, and the guy who told him about it, and possibly the guy who told him. It's a show all about hunting in New Zealand and around the globe. This is The Hunting Show. Find The Hunting Show on Facebook and Twitter for up-to-date information on upcoming shows and topics.